G'day, welcome back to the channel. This video is in response to the many emails and comments on my videos that I've received regarding this video called Amazing Invention. This drone will change everything. It's Mark Rober. Now, he's a very popular YouTube content creator. He created the Glitter Bomb, which are really good videos. I've enjoyed them. And he's got 23.6 million subscribers. So when he makes a video, it reaches a lot of people. In fact, this one has already reached 16 million people in 8 short days. So he's quite influential. He's able to change people's minds, perspectives, and opinions. And this video, it's not really very good from the point of view of getting the facts across, because Mark is an engineer and he's a technology enthusiast, and I'm afraid he's let his enthusiasm run away with him, in my honest opinion. I'm going to react to this video. I'm going to point out where I think he is perhaps misinforming people, perhaps not on purpose, because as I say, he's just enthusiastic, and his perspective is from, wow, look how cool this technology is, look how well it works, not from the perspective of, I'm a businessman, I'm going to invest some money, I want a return. Is drone delivery going to give me a return on my investment? And if it's not, then I'm not interested in investing, and therefore there'll be no drone deliveries. That's what I want to cover in this video, the truth, the reality of the situation from a commercial perspective when it comes to drone deliveries. Well, let's watch the start of the video and see what Mark's talking about.
I cut my finger making lunch, so I placed an order for some Band-Aids a couple minutes ago, and now they're 4 seconds away. That is a nearly silent drone system that can...
So there we go. That's the dream. That's the illusion. That's what's promised for drone deliveries. You just get on your phone, order something, and just a few minutes later, it's dropped from the heavens into your lap, and there you go. Now, yeah, that can happen. We've seen it just happened. Well, probably didn't. I suspect it was all rigged, but I mean, we've seen that Google Wing claims over 300,000 drone deliveries as part of its programs to develop the technology. 300,000. So it's obviously possible. It's happening every day in a number of locations around the world. In Ireland, we've got Mana Aero that are claiming that there's thousands and thousands of deliveries, and they're delivering, I think hundreds or thousands a day. A lot of stuff going on. A lot of people proving this drone delivery works. It's actually a reality. What are you talking about, Bruce? You're going through a hole in your head when you say it's not going to work. It is working. How could I have got it so wrong? Well, the reality is that it is possible. But just because it's possible doesn't mean it's going to happen. There are many things that are possible, but never happen. I mean, way back in the 1950s, there were articles about flying cars. Ken Moller developed a flying car back in the 1970s, and we've seen numerous articles of flying cars, but we don't see any. In fact, on my community tab just the other day, I invited people to go to the nearest window and look out and come back and tell me how many flying cars, the eVTOL air taxi things they could see, and how many delivery drones they could see. Because you would think that after more than 10 years of promises, the skies would be starting to get relatively full of these things. And the reality is, not one person of the many people that responded saw a delivery drone or an air taxi in the skies out their window, which tells you a lot about what's being promised versus what's being delivered. Now, Mark has got very enthused about this technology. And, when you're a technology geek, it's easy to get enthused when you see stuff that's new, potentially groundbreaking and innovative. But you can't let that cloud your judgment from a commercial perspective. A lot of people do. Unfortunately, many people do. Here in New Zealand, there was a guy called Glenn Martin. He invented a thing called the Martin jetpack. It was debuted at Oshkosh way back, I think it's 2009 or something, a long time ago. At Oshkosh, he debuted this jetpack, and people invested a lot of money into it. I said at the time, this is never going to fly. It's never going to fly. But people said, look, it's flying. Well, it was hovering and people were holding on to it. And I said, this will never be a commercially viable product for so many reasons. And people were saying, but look, he's flown it, he's flying it. And I said, yeah, it shows that this can be done, but it does not show that it can be done on a commercial basis. And sure enough, years later, after many tens of millions of dollars had been invested in that particular project, the whole thing folded. Because it may have been possible, but it was not commercially viable. And this is what I'm saying with the drone delivery stuff. It is possible, but it is not, and will not be in the near future, commercially viable. So let's look at a bit more of Mark's enthusiasm for this technology.
deliver a package from the sky right to my backyard in as little as 2 minutes with dinner plate accuracy. And as far as I'm concerned, that's basically teleportation.
Well, there you go. So you can see that's not teleportation. We know it's not even close to teleportation. But Mark is so enthused. He's making YouTube content. He wants to get people excited. He wants to stir up their juices so that they go, oh, this is a great video. Let's give it a thumbs up and subscribe and use it on, link to it on our social media. And let's contact Bruce Simpson and say, what are you talking about? Mark Robb has proven that drone delivery is practical and possible, and it's going to happen. Well, there you go. Now, this is what that Zipline claim is, their big claim to fame. It's this little cat cage they've got here, which hangs down on a string from the drone that provides a number of benefits, apparently. First of all, it means the drone can hover at quite an altitude, which means it's going to be quieter, and there's not going to be a risk of people running out into the propellers and hurting themselves. Because you'll notice this has propellers on it. It has a big fan at the back. It has some side fans. That is designed to give it pinpoint accuracy on landing. It can maneuver itself separate to the drone so as to make sure it's landing in an unobstructed area. These fans will make a noise, but they won't make too much noise. It's just a clever way around the whole problem of having a weight hanging on the end of a line in a strong wind, and it's going to act like a pendulum. Google Wing probably has a degree of this problem, and this is the way Zipline have chosen to get around it. But however, it's quite important, this cage in itself will weigh quite a bit. It's got motors, it's got a battery, because I don't think the power's coming down that cord. It's got the weight of the cord, which is quite significant, as we'll see later in the video. And it's going to be an extra payload, which either reduces the amount of payload you can carry, or it reduces your range and endurance as an aircraft. So it's added complexity. It's the more you have, the more you have to go wrong. So this may look cool, but from a purely engineering perspective, I don't know that it is a solution that will withstand the test of time and the test of, is it worth the extra complexity?
This is the very near future of package delivery from a company called...
He says, this is the very near future of package delivery. No, I would strongly disagree. Amazon showed us the very near future of drone delivery back in 2013 when they said, we're going to be delivering within a couple of years. Have you seen any Amazon delivery drones? No, you haven't. It's easy to promise. It's easy to get carried away in the hype and the hysteria and the enthusiasm for new technology, and lose sight of the fact that nobody's going to be doing this on a commercial basis unless they can make a profit. And I've seen no case to argue that drone delivery can be done on a commercial scale at a profit. And that's the bottom line. Google, look at Google. They run the Wing thing. They've done over 300,000 deliveries. Not one of them has made a profit. In fact, most of the time, I think at this stage, they're not even charging for the drone delivery service. So naturally, people are going to lap it up. Anything for free. Do you want a free lunch? Hey, sure, give me a free lunch. Well, we'll give you the delivery for free, but you have to pay for the lunch. That's what's happening with Google Wing. And if you look at the number of initiatives that Google Wing or Google has started, thrown heaps of money into and then canned and closed a few years later, Stadia, anyone? It shows you that that if it doesn't make a profit, they're not going to continue with it. And so it's only a matter of time before Google Wing folds up, because it's not going to make a profit in the foreseeable future for reasons I'll explain in another video, which will be coming up fairly shortly. But here we go. Now he moves to Zipline. And this is a very interesting situation because people often quote to me Zipline, but in Rwanda, they've been doing this for 6 years, and every day they're rolling out these drones and they're delivering stuff. In fact, I think Mark says it's every 90 seconds or something they're firing a drone off here. So obviously it's practical, and it's been going for 6 years, so it must be sustainable. And my response to that is, well, this is a special case. For everything, there's going to be a special case where everything lines up and you can perhaps, operate it as a viable system. But we've got to remember, this is a third world country. And third world countries do not have a lot of manned aviation going on, so it's easy to get regulatory approval to conduct this sort of thing. Also, this is life-saving technology. And when it comes to saving lives, you're granted a lot more latitude in respect to the amount of risk you can impose on unrelated third parties. And it's a third world country. The population density is very, very low. So most of the time, these drones are flying over uninhabited areas, jungle and bush and grassland, where even if something goes wrong, nobody is there to get hurt. So when you weigh up the benefits, which is saving somebody's life, versus the risks, which are very, very small, it's pretty easy to get regulatory approval to do this sort of thing. And it's a comparatively low risk operation. Is it commercially viable? Well, probably not, because in countries where the health systems are operated as a part of the national service, they don't have to be profitable. They're not there to make money. They're there to save people's lives. So if you need to spend money on drones to save someone's life, you do it. There's nobody there counting the pennies and saying, we haven't made enough profit this month. It's just how many lives have we saved? How much does it cost? Does that meet our goal for, an efficient health system? So this isn't like really as commercially viable as you might think. Zipline are probably getting paid a lot of money, but would they be paid that money by anyone other than a health service who really are funded by the taxpayer probably anyway? So it's not the same as delivering pizzas and burgers and Band-Aids in an urban suburban environment. Far from it.
Zipline. It's been over a decade since we were first promised drone delivery that looked like this, and to be honest, I was never that stoked about it because I couldn't imagine that anyone would actually want something that big and loud with dangerously fast spinning propellers landing anywhere near their house. And that was a bummer because with the
So now Mark is going to talk about the economics, and this is important, but he doesn't quite understand how this works. Now we see here some Amazon Prime delivery vans. They will be loaded to the rooftop with packages. They're not going to take one van, put one package in it, drive out and deliver it to somebody, then come back to the warehouse and pick up the next package. This is economies of scale. Now, when you have one man and one van that are going to do maybe 200, 300, 400 deliveries in a day, the cost per delivery is very, very small, because you're amortizing the cost of that day's fuel and that labor for a day over those 300 or 400 packages. It becomes a tiny cost. Whereas with the drone delivery, you're only going to deliver one item per flight. So the cost per delivery is much higher. Yes, you're using electricity instead of fossil fuel, but that doesn't really matter because, as I'll go into in the next video, we're going to look at how much it actually costs to deliver something by drone, and it is really, really expensive at the moment, and it will be for the foreseeable future because we do not have the technology to make it economically viable. But let's listen to what Mark has to say. He's going to pitch a case for, this is going to save the planet, this is efficient, this is saving fuel. Let's see what he says.
Explosion of people using Amazon or food delivery apps like DoorDash or Instacart, billions of doorstep deliveries are now happening every year. But when your lunch only weighs a few ounces, driving it to everyone with these two...
See, now this is impractical. This simply does not happen. You do not have someone driving a big pickup truck to deliver one tiny bag of food. Does not happen. Most food delivery companies these days tend to use very small vehicles, a Honda Jazz or whatever, a Honda Fit or whatever, the little tiny cars, or maybe even someone on a scooter, because that's certainly cheaper. You pay some 17 or 18-year-old kid with a moped, he can load up maybe 10 or 20 orders at once, go out and deliver them for a cup of petrol, cup of gasoline, and his minimum wage time. That's pretty economically viable on a per delivery basis. No one in their right mind would use a great big pickup truck like this to deliver one person's lunch, because the cost of delivery would be several times the value of the order. So Mark's being a bit disingenuous here.
Ton gas-powered vehicles is wildly inefficient, bad for the whole planet, and not to mention just really slow. Drone delivery would not only take a lot of cars off the road, but...
Why would it take those cars off the road? Because the cars aren't delivering anything, are they? No, we're talking about vans and trucks. So again, he is overstating the point for effect. And remember, this is entertainment. This is YouTube content. It's not a well sort of balanced documentary. He's trying to spread his enthusiasm for this technology.
It would be a lot faster than a car, it would be fully electric, fully autonomous, and it would cost pennies worth of energy per delivery. And with Zipline, because the droid that lowers the package can move laterally in any direction, it can make a dartboard-sized precision landing even in high winds, while the main drone can stay 400 feet up in...
Now, I find this difficult. Now, again, he's not dealing so much with facts as hype and hysteria here. I've lost a little respect for Mark in this video, because you will not be delivering a package from 400 feet in the air. The amount of cord, the weight and the volume of the cord required to drop that cat cage from 400 feet would, again, severely compromise the range and endurance and payload capacity of the drone. It's ridiculous. It may be 100 feet or maybe 150 feet, but it's not going to be 400 feet in the sky. And in fact, that's not 400 feet, because with most camera, a normal camera, not on zoom, you would barely see something. It'd be a tiny dot at 400 feet. So this is, again, when someone has to exaggerate the facts to make a point, it eats into their credibility. Mark may be a fantastic, entertainer, and he has some engineering skills, but this is disappointing, I would say, because now it puts everything else he says it raises the suspicion that is he just saying this for effect or for, to overstate the case? Can we believe the rest of the stuff in this video? I would say most people will, unfortunately, but I think that critical minds will at this stage be going, something's not quite right here.
That is very quiet.
It's very quiet. Yeah, they've got these fancy props here. Look at it, sort of a three-bladed prop where one is more or less a counterbalance and the other two are providing the lift. Making a big deal out of it. Now, if you're 400 feet in the sky, even with regular props, you couldn't hear it. You can't hear a drone that's 400 feet in the sky with regular props. So either these props don't reduce the noise, or Mark, as I say, was telling pork pies about dropping the line from 400 feet. This doesn't lend any credibility to the claims that are being made here. And if those props were as efficient as regular props, of course, everyone would be using them. But I suspect there's an efficiency trade-off. And again, this is not going to be that efficient. We've got the heavy cat cage. We've got 400 feet of line, and it's not thin string, thin nylon. It looks like it's a sort of kind of thick wire line or something, which is all heavy. So I've got the bulk and the weight of that. Now we've got these less than normally efficient propellers to reduce the noise profile, which means the endurance, the range of this craft is going to be quite limited. The payload capacity is going to be quite limited, which speaks to some of the issues I'm going to cover in a later video of why this is not economically viable. Now, here is the drone, the zipline drone operating in Rwanda, and look at the kind of country it's flying over. It is sparse. I don't see a great deal. There's no cities down there. This is the niche case where this all pays off, where there's low risk to people or property on the ground below, because there's very little to be endangered. And this is why this works. It works because it's an ideal fit for the requirement. But this is half a world away from delivering pizzas and fries and Band-Aids to someone in a suburban garden in America.
Decisions to autonomously navigate back home from as far away as 150 miles round trip. Then taking inspiration from an aircraft carrier, as the drone approaches, the military-grade GPS broadcasts its position within 1 centimeter. So these two poles know exactly when to swing up at the last possible moment, snagging a hook on the tail with the cable.
Now you can see this is all very complicated and high tech, and it's, this again, the technology is also a world away from what is required to deliver drones to suburban gardens in America. And this success doesn't always translate. This may be the best possible solution to this edge case, this niche market in Rwanda, where they got to deliver packages over very long distances and very sparsely populated regions. That's not the technology you need to deliver those packages to your garden or the table, outside the back door. So I think Mark is drawing a very long bow to say that Zipline are going to be doing drone deliveries in America really soon, because look what they've been doing in Rwanda. It's totally different. Most of this area out here in the distance is sparsely populated. There's houses around here. It's launching from a sort of a built-up area, but most of it's hill country, trees, open paddocks, low-risk operations.
How do you guys do this all day long? So now that I had a pretty good feel for the launch site, we headed out to see where some...
Again, here we can see how sparsely populated things are. There's houses down there, but it's basically open land below. If something goes wrong, very little chance that anyone is going to be injured.
These drones were actually flying to. So we left the launch site like 3.5 hours ago. We're driving to this remote hospital on these really windy roads. And as we've been driving, we've been tracking and seeing some of these zipline drones delivering blood and medical supplies to this hospital. Since we're about a half hour out, I thought it would be fun to place my own emergency order, and it could meet us when we get there. Because when you need extra ointment, you just need extra ointment. And sure enough, a few minutes after...
So we saw there how access by road is difficult. And that's one of the reasons that delivery by drone, in this case, is practical, because the alternatives are just no good. But we do have some fantastic alternatives to drone deliveries in an urban suburban environment. We have people on scooters, we have people in small cars, we have vans loaded to the gunnels with packages. All these things are practical and viable and have been used for many years very successfully. In order for aerial drones to take over, they have to be cost effective and offer a definite benefit. Now we know the benefit is they're going to be faster, but there are downsides as well. I mean, a man in a van can operate come rain, sleet, snow, wind, hail. Don't slow them down much. But a drone, well, weather really does have an impact on when you can fly a drone, especially if you are dropping a payload from 400 feet, because the amount of pressure applied to that 400 feet of rope or wire or whatever it is can be quite enormous, maybe more than that little cat cage can counteract. And even if the cat cage can be delivered to the right point, the bow in that cable may be tangling a nearby tree. There are many, many, many factors. This looks great when it's demonstrated in a perfect environment. But I am not as optimistic as Mark that this is a practical, commercially viable system for urban-suburban deliveries.
The whole time we were there, kids would be lined up at the fence to watch the drones be launched and captured over and over. In fact, one kid came up specifically wanting to show Abdul what he'd built completely on his own. And in that moment...
Now, this is the biggest tragedy of all that we're facing with the hobby. And look at these kids. These kids are obviously enthused about this whole drone thing. And this guy's built his own little cardboard model. It's not a functional model, but it's a replica of the drones that he's been seen flying, that he sees flying there. And unfortunately, this is what overregulation is killing, certainly in the developed world. As I've said so many times before, the regulations are now so ridiculous and overbearing that they're locking children out of the ability to design and build or even just buy stuff and fly it. I mean, this kid here, I don't know how old he is, maybe 12, 13. Well, if he was Canadian, he couldn't fly a drone or a model aircraft weighing more than 250 grams without the direct supervision of somebody 14 years or older who had sat the necessary certification to fly a drone. He would be locked out unless he could find somebody to mentor him. It's not always possible, certainly not in a suburban or an urban environment, not always possible to find that person. And it's even worse if you're in the UK. If you're in the UK, for a craft that weighs more than 250 grams, you need to have an operator ID. And only people 18 years or older are able to secure an operator ID. So again, if you don't have a mentoring adult, then you cannot own and operate a drone or model aircraft, whether you build it or whether you buy it. You can't do that. The scene you see here is becoming illegal in many countries where kids want to develop and build their own stuff and possibly go and fly it. Illegal, against the law. We are saying, if you do this, you're a criminal. It's seriously, this is how bad things have got. I wish Mark had focused on that instead of his over-exuberant, over-representation of the glowing, what he sees as the glowing future of drone delivery. This is a far more important issue. I mean, he's made a point of this, but he hasn't then said overregulation is preventing this in the Western world, in the developed world, because this so-called drone delivery explosion, which was predicted for 7 years ago and still has not happened, is going to push these kids out of the airspace. That's a tragedy. I wish Mark had focused on that instead of just hyping this stuff up and misinforming us with things like having the craft hovering at 400 feet. It's a shame. But Mark is an entertainer. He's not a guy that knows a lot about, obviously doesn't know a lot about the commercial aspects of this, or he chooses not to relate those elements because he wants to present a story which promotes drone delivery as the next big thing happening really soon, which is misinformation, unfortunately, in my honest opinion. So there we go. That's my reaction to Mark's video. Not a totally favourable one. I can understand where he's coming from, but I think he has basically done the hobby a misservice because he has, and many of the 16 million people who have already watched this video will be thinking, drone delivery is just around the corner. And maybe it's fair that we increase restrictions on these model airplanes and these recreational drones so that we can get our burger delivered in just a few minutes when we want it by drone. It's a shame. A huge shame. I'd like to see Mark make a new video where he focuses on the effect that these rules are having on children and their future and their ability to embrace, adopt and use this technology as part of the joy of being a child. He focuses on that with his own kits that he makes. He has these kits, buy my stuff. But really, I think this is far more important. But again, Mark is he's a content creator. He is, like everybody, chasing a dollar. And so sometimes, the truly objective facts fall by the wayside in this environment. I can't criticize him for it. Everybody is doing it. So it's a tragedy. It's sad. Now, as I say, I'm doing another video, which I'll be looking at this with a keen business eye. If I was going to invest my own money in drone delivery, what are the questions I would be asking? What is the due diligence I would do? And where is the facts that I would want to see that would prove that if I invest $1 in drone delivery, I'm going to get more than $1 back, because that doesn't happen at the moment. It's not happening, and it's not going to happen for the foreseeable future for all the reasons that I will outline in that upcoming video. Now, I may orient that video towards people who could be interested in investing in drone delivery technology. It'll probably not be targeting the choir I'm preaching to at the moment, but people who would not normally watch my videos, but maybe thinking that drone delivery is a good place to throw your money, because I'll be proving to them maybe it's not. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, thank you for watching. I do appreciate you taking the time, and I thank my supporters on Patreon and also via channel memberships on this channel. They go a long way to enabling me to try and push back against the misinformation that's coming from all angles, and it is so powerful. 16 million people have watched this video, and the vast majority will have believed what they saw and think that Zipline is about to change the face of deliveries, at least in the USA. Bye for now.
Overregulation is like a tumor. It's killing our hobby. It must be terminated. Now!